Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me and see me fine. I'm Jerry Cornfield, and I am a reporter for the Daily Herald of Snohomish County, which means I'm being distributed in Monroe and around throughout the county. I'm a political reporter, and every Thursday I have a column in the newspaper about politics. Sometimes it's what's happening here in Olympia, and sometimes it's what's happening there in Snohomish County. And just a very brief background. I actually started in journalism as a sports reporter while working in high school, covering the high school baseball and football team and little league teams. And then it wasn't until I went to college in California that I started writing about politics. And until moving here to Washington about 12 years ago, I worked in San Francisco and other cities in California covering politics and community and the state. And so a lot of interesting stories down there, a lot of interesting stories up here, and we have a big election season. So I know you may have some questions. I'll just tell you that what I've been watching is the governor's race, which we have two candidates there, an incumbent and a challenger, as well as, like everyone else, kind of watching the television coverage of the presidential election. And then there's just a whole bunch of state initiatives too. So rather than run through everything I've been covering, let me go ahead and start taking your questions, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, thank you. Joel, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Cornfield. My name is Joel, and for the state treasurer's race with Dwayne Davidson and Michael Waite said or pointed out that he would be a better candidate because he knows the market inside out. But how does knowing the market help?
Well, I've had the good fortune of meeting Mr. Waite, which if you've heard him, he'll notice he has an accent. He's from Australia. So he's got an interesting background. And listening to him talk and how it might help him is when you're not in government your entire career, you kind of look at money a little bit differently. So if he is elected state treasurer, he's been using money in the private sector for companies trying to take their dollar and make it into 2 or 3 or 4 very quickly. And so I think that's where he wants to try to focus his effort, is to figure out how to invest the state dollars better. Now, the flip side of that, and the reason his opponent, Dwayne Davidson, says the problem is you know how to invest money, but you don't know how to run the office. You don't know how government works, and there's processes and meetings and all that kind of stuff. And so his answer is, yeah, we can all invest money to make money, but you need to know how to manage people. And so that's where their campaign is all about. It's hard for me to say that one person like the treasurer could make the state a lot more money, because the way the state is set up, there's a whole board of people that sit together and decide, should we take these dollars and put it in this stock account, or should we invest in this stock? I mean, it literally is like, should we put it in Boeing or should we put it in Microsoft? And so Mr. Waite, if he's elected, he'll be able to have one voice in that, and he'll be able to use his background and knowledge to tell people what he thinks will work. And some people believe that will help someone who isn't from government. And Mr. Davidson says, I'm a little more cautious and I know government. So I don't know if I can answer specifically if it will help, but that's what he will bring, is his difference.
Right. So in your opinion, is it better for a candidate to have a better political experience for Mr. Dwayne Davidson?
Well, my experience of watching and learning, I think it helps. You need to have a little of both. If you only have, if you're only in government and serving, then you really don't have an idea of what it's like in the, if you will, the real world, the private world. So I think it does give him a little more, a better resume for some voters. I don't want to say it's better, because it depends on where he worked and what kind of background, but it does help give you a better perspective of everything that's out there, I think.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Cornfeld. My name is John, and my question for you is, why does Bill Bryant, in the race for governor between Bill Bryant and Jay Inslee, why does Bill Bryant, one of his key issues is traffic jams listed before other crucial issues such as healthcare or education?
Why does he make traffic a bigger priority for him? is that, well, I don't, you know, when these candidates run for office, they have to make a little list, literally, of, okay, here's what we're going to campaign on. And in this area, and I'm saying Snohomish County and the I-5, people traveling up and down I-5, they have to deal with traffic every day. And I think what he's thinking is, look, if I want to win votes from people in Monroe and Everett and Marysville, et cetera, I got to talk about what they're worried about, which for a lot of people is traffic. And they arrive.
Alice and Mr. Herring.
All right, guys, you got it up. You got it up on here.
You guys are online.
Oh, being joined by Hawkins here. Okay, so with traffic, that's just on people's minds every morning when they go to and from, go to work, and then again in the afternoon when they come home. He does care about education and healthcare just as much, but it's hard when you talk to voters, and I think you guys know yourselves, you can only think about one thing at a time, and a lot of voters are only focused on one or two things at a time, so that's why the candidates do that. I don't want to say he thinks traffic is a bigger deal than education, because he doesn't. He thinks that they're both big issues, but he's hoping to win more votes talking about traffic.
What's issue?
And I'm sorry, I've already forgot what the follow-up, I should have written it down.
The follow-up question was, which issues do you think are the most important for Washington State?
Well, I know the next year, whoever is governor, whoever is elected, all of these offices, treasurer and secretary of state, all these offices are going to talk about education. And there is a lawsuit. The Supreme Court has told the legislature, you're not putting enough money into education, into your classrooms, and into the salary of your teacher and everything. So they have a deadline that they have to meet. So education will be the number one issue they'll be talking about. The health care, and in particular mental health, is going to be another big issue. There's a lot of individuals out there who need help that the government, some are getting help and some are not, and some of the help they're getting isn't enough. So I think you're going to talk about education, then there'll be health care, and then after that, everybody will have their own little issue they want to work on, but I think those will be the two big ones.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir. My name is Victoria, and including the race.
Can Victoria go ahead and ask?
And
Go ahead.
the race, the state race for governor, including Jay Inslee and his opponent Bill Bryant. Why does Jay Inslee feel so strongly about safe environments for LGBTQ families?
Well, so if Mr. Inslee has been in politics for a long time, and one of the things that Jay Inslee has talked about ever since he was in the state house, he was a state representative, he was an attorney, and then he went to Congress. He's been very active in the communities of civil rights issues. And in his belief, and he feels strongly, and I think many people feel strongly in the state that all individuals need to be treated equally and fairly. So when you have all those letters in a row, we're talking about individuals, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning all the community. He feels that anyone who identifies themselves in that way should be treated just like everyone should be treated the same and equally. And I think most of the country would like to feel that everybody is treated equally, and I think it's important that he feel, as a candidate, he feels it's important to keep saying that, just in case people don't know.
Thank you very much for answering my question.
Hi, my name is Adrian, and for the Attorney General election, the incumbent right now, Bob Ferguson, states that if he is reelected, then he will ban the sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. What will Joshua Trumbull do for this issue if he was elected?
Well, I want to start by saying that Joshua Trumbull works in Arlington, so he knows Snohomish County pretty well. He's a local attorney, and he is a libertarian. That is, again, what's unique about that race, he is the first libertarian candidate running on a ballot for statewide office. That's matched up against the incumbent. There's no Republican in the race, which is very unusual. So what Mr. Ferguson says he's going to try to do. He doesn't get to write any legislation, so he has to find some lawmakers to introduce that bill. If Mr. Trumbull's elected, he doesn't believe that there should be a ban. And he doesn't believe that the magazines, which is how many bullets that go in and can be hooked into a gun, he doesn't believe there should be limits. His belief, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago in Everett, is that the Constitution has a Second Amendment that allows an individual to have a right to a gun, and that the government shouldn't be telling the marketplace what is or isn't going to be sold. And he doesn't believe, and I think a lot of people in this country don't believe, that it's the gun. And so by banning one type of gun, you will do anything to reduce the tragedies, the violence that has occurred. I mean, many know there was shootings in Marysville and Burlington, the mall. So and Mr. Trumbull just doesn't believe there should be a ban. He doesn't think it'll increase safety in the community. And so there's a big difference between those two.
So what is the current law in our states regarding assault weapons?
Well, when we get about assault weapons, there's a big category. There's assault-style weapons, and that's where they really talk about it's almost like the machine guns you may see in places in war. And there is no ban in this state. There was a federal ban. The government had, for about 10 years, had a law on the books that said you couldn't, buy or sell those. That went away, and Congress did not act to put it back in place. So right now, there really isn't a ban on any kind of gun being sold. Now, you can't just, you have to, there are laws about background checks. So if I went in to buy a gun like that or buy a big bunch of bullets, the gun, they'll have to do a check on me and any individual in my background. What I think is going to end up is something that is happening in California. California passed a number of laws. And one of the laws they passed is if you want to go in and you've got a gun and you've got some bullets, and you want to go in and you want to buy a box or magazine with, say, 30 bullets, they're going to check your background. And they're going to see that you just bought bullets maybe the day before, and you might not be allowed. So, and I think that's where we're going to end up in this state. There's going to be some more limits on what you can buy, but probably not a ban on the guns themselves. That's pretty politically, it's pretty difficult. People get pretty passionate about it. So, so there are no real strong limits on that. Obviously, you can't, there's age limits. And if you have, if you've been convicted of a crime, you're not going to be able to buy a gun if it won't be allowed. And there's also an initiative that if you, if you have been hospitalized for mental health issues recently, you won't be able to buy a gun right when you get out of the hospital. So there are some of those limits already on the books.
So do you think that limiting magazines would help stop violence?
Well, that's a tough question for me or anybody. I don't know that the number of bullets in a magazine will stop or even reduce violence. But if someone's going to go out and try to buy a bunch of stuff on a Friday and commit a crime on a Saturday, if they were limited on how much they could buy, then yeah, you would probably be able to reduce limit how much damage is done. But I don't know if I want to be in a position of trying to say any one issue will reduce gun violence. It's education, and it's hopefully people getting along. Will work together rather than want to shoot each other.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Kornfeld. My name is Eva, and similar to Adrian's question, in the race of the Washington Attorney General, Bob Ferguson has claimed that he's going to ban the sale of assault weapons. How will the ban of assault weapons help Washington as a whole, and what will we use to defend ourselves instead if needed?
Wow, so that's these are interesting questions about what it might do. I'd be interested in hearing how you guys think it would, what you guys think it would do for the state. I don't know that a ban by itself, in my experience of covering these politicians, these bans go into effect or they don't, but I don't know what immediate impact. I don't know that the folks, most folks don't have an assault weapon at home. And folks even who own guns don't own an assault weapon. So if you ban them, I'm not sure that it'll make a great deal of difference on how many people own guns or what guns they buy, as if they like them, they'll go find some other kind of gun to buy. defending themselves, we already have a law on the books that would allow individuals to buy a handgun and to get a permit to carry it. And in this state, you're allowed to actually take, if you had a rifle and you wanted to go to a rally, you can put it over your shoulder. It's called open carry. That isn't, no one's talking about changing that. So if you have a gun, and I think there was an incident, was it in Monroe? If I remember, there was an older woman, right? There was someone who broke into her home and she shot them. She had a gun, a permit, and she was able to defend herself. So I think passing a ban probably won't reduce anyone's ability to defend themselves if they have a gun and if they know how to use it.
Which is your favorite race or the closest race, do you think?
What is the closest race?
Or your favorite, yes.
Well, I think like many people, the one that's more entertaining and most important for the country is the presidential race. But in the state, the closest race, and it's pretty interesting too, is the one for Secretary of State. That's the people who oversee the elections for the state. All the polling shows it's really even in terms of the numbers. The person who holds the office now is a Republican. The challenger is a Democrat, and Republicans have been in that office for a number of years. So if a Democrat wins, it'll be an upset. So that's been pretty interesting to see these two candidates battle.
One more follow-up question. In the race of the Washington Attorney General, whose ideas would you agree with more, the Bob Ferguson or Joshua Trumbull?
Well, I don't want to weigh in my opinion too much because we're trying to be as objective as we can, or at least fair. I don't want to say objective, but and that, I have to be honest, that race is pretty one-sided. Mr. Ferguson has over $1 million. He's very, very well known. He's going to win that race. And so I think the ideas that Mr. Trumbull brings up forces Mr. Ferguson to think, okay, if I want to propose a ban, I have to write it differently, because people like Trumbull, and your questions, I think your family members and what you guys know, he's going to have to be very careful about how he writes it. So I don't want to say I'm a favorite or side with one or the other, but I know that when Mr. Trumbull talks, Mr. Ferguson listens.
Is money a big factor in the elective races?
Oh yeah. I should have brought some of the mailers I've already received, but your houses will start getting mail, or maybe you've been getting some phone calls, but I think, and you'll definitely, if you watch TV, you'll see the ads. At this point, it is when people start spending a lot of money to try to reach the voters, and it does make a difference. If you don't have any money, and you guys are talking about the Attorney General race, but you won't see any ads for Mr. Trumbull. He just doesn't, he's not raising any money. And so most voters won't know anything about him. And so you do need money to try to communicate to people, hey, here I am, here's who I am, here's what I want to do. And so you do need it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we run out of questions? Feel free. If you have any questions, I got 5 minutes left. I got 5 minutes left. I don't want that bell to go on. Sound like I'm on a submarine.
Yeah. Carol, we're getting a little bit of feedback.
From
Oh, okay,
From
good.
me? Feedback from us or from you? Or from them?
Might have been the question about money.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Amanda, and I was wondering what you thought of, in the lieutenant governor race, one of the candidates, Cyrus Habib, is the one who is blind. He seems to be, through my research, the favorite. I was wondering what your opinion was on why he is the favorite.
Okay, so he is, many believe, to be the favorite for a couple of reasons. One, he's been in political office for a while. So he's run for office. And he's from Seattle, so it's the biggest city in the state, and so he's known very well in the biggest city in the state. And he's a Democrat. And in history, Democrats win that office, do pretty well. And his opponent isn't as well known and is trying to become well known, but doesn't have as much money. And so those two factors, being on the ballot in Seattle a lot and not ever being on the ballot, just by that gets more people know him. That's why he's considered a favorite. And he's a state senator now, which means he's on television. He knows the process. He's met with all the organizations. He's raised money. We talked about money. He's raised, I think, about $800,000, and his opponent has raised about $80,000. So that's a big difference. It goes a long ways.
If his opponent was the favorite, why do you think he would be the favorite?
Well, if you turn it around, since the seat, no one holds the seat now. It's going to be an open seat. And I think the strength for the Republicans, he actually has a radio show, and it goes on the internet, so you don't know how many people might be, know him, and so that would give him an advantage, and that might be, would move him. He hasn't run for political office, so it's hard for me to say how he could ever become the favorite. But if something happened, like Mr. Habib did something that was very controversial, that was negative, then I think you would see this flip. Everyone would say, oh, we don't want him, we're going to go to him, and he would quickly become the favorite if, something happened like that.
Thank you.
Can we pause for a second?
My name is Jason Jackson. My name is Ryan Kendall. We're both at North Mason Hawkins Middle School. And our question was, what was the most famous politician that you have met in your life?
I've been very fortunate. I've been working in this business a long time. I've met a number of presidents. And that's still pretty important. You meet President Bush, you meet President Clinton. I've met Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So these guys are, well, I didn't meet Donald Trump. I was at his event. So I have to be careful of that. So there are, in California, I was there. I have to tell you, someone that, I don't know if the most famous, but the most entertaining was an actor, John Cleese from Monty Python. And he got involved in politics in the town I was at. Arnold Schwarzenegger was involved in politics, so where I worked in California before. A lot of stars like that. So I think probably about all of that. President Clinton may have been the most interesting.
Thank you.
Do we have time for a couple more questions? Where are you? Okay, come in, Mason.
Yeah, I see zeros off. I thought you had another 10 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mason Shoemaker.
Oh, I'm Harry Robinson.
Yeah.
And we have a question. How do we fix the funding and treatment of our veterans?
Well, it's a tough question. I don't know that they're working on it. I was at a forum last night in Edmonds where these candidates for Congress were talking about it. They're going to keep putting money in, so I don't know that there's going to be a shortage of money, but the fix is really about they need to have more services available, more clinics, more doctors when they're needed. And there's a lot of talk about trying to fix it by allowing the veterans. Right now, veterans have to go to the Veterans Affairs. They have to go to the hospitals that they've been directed to, and there's a growing number of members of Congress who want to say, if you're a veteran, just get a doctor and send the bill to the government and try to make it easier for the veterans to get care and not have to go through so many hoops, if you will. And so I think that is where the conversation is going. I don't know if there's a simple fix, though. Since the war, there's been so many more thousands of people veterans in care. So I think that may be the process. So make it easier for them to find a doctor and not worry so much about who's going to pay the tab.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lindsay, and my question for you is, can you describe 3 of your job strengths and weaknesses?
I had trouble hearing.
My name is Lindsay, and my question for you is, could you describe 3 of your job strengths and weaknesses?
Oh, my job strengths and weaknesses? Is that right?
My job. Okay.
So the weakness of my job, and my paper's in Snohomish County, but I'm in Olympia now, and I work under. Probably the weakness of my job is really for our industry. There are fewer reporters out there, and so it's tough to know with so many elections going on. It's hard to keep an eye and juggle all the balls and know what's going on. And so the weakness is not having enough people. The strength of the job is that, just like it was 100 years ago, if you're in the industry, if you're a reporter, people will take your phone call and they'll talk to you, or they won't take your phone call, and if they don't talk to you, then you still have a story. So there's still a lot of power in being able to tell people what's happening, and there's a lot of strength there, because then you folks and your family, everybody wants to know what's going on, so there's a pressure. So I think the strength is being able to talk to people.
Hello, my name is Vincent Martinez. My question would be, who do you think is the best candidate for superintendent of public instructions?
Wow. So I'm not going to pick a winner. I'm going to take sides because I have to write a story about those two candidates in about 2 weeks. But so they both have strength because they both have been in education in different ways. Chris Regdahl has connections to Snohomish County, and for a time he lived in Everett, and so he's been a state legislator, and he has worked and voted on bills on dealing with schools and funding of schools. So that gives him a strength of knowing how the political process works. Erin Jones, I don't know if you've been able to meet these two or see these two candidates. Erin Jones, she worked for the superintendent of public instruction. She was an assistant, so she knows how that agency works, where its strengths and weaknesses are. So you've got two people who are both have knowledge of education and understand it. So I think that's their strength for both. I don't want to say one's better than the other, because I haven't actually interviewed both of them about what they want to do. As you know, with that lawsuit in the Supreme Court known as the McCleary case, they're going to be needing to put more money into schools and change some things. So whoever wins will be in the center of that conversation. It's going to be important.
Thank you.
Cassie.
Hi, my name's Cassie, and I was wondering what inspired you to be a reporter?
Can you, if you people maybe get the microphone a little closer? It's a little soft.
Hi, my name's Cassie, and I was wondering what inspired you to be a reporter?
Well, so I started as a sports reporter when I was in high school, and I wasn't an athlete, so I covered the athletes, and I wrote about the high school football team and the sports teams, and I also covered Little League, and so I started in sports, and it just kept going. When I got to college, worked on the paper, and I found that it was just fun. I mean, covering sports was fun. College, just being on a group and writing about what other students were doing and learning about the college that way was interesting. And then I got into politics when I was a senior in college and started covering elections. And elections in sports, they're competing to win. I found that interesting, and I've always been interested. I've never had another career. Worked in construction, I worked in other industries, but this is the only career I've had, and it's still very interesting every day. So I guess it was just wanting to be there, see something, and write about it. It's just that simple. It's just I found it interesting.
Thank you.
Noah. Okay, we'll have one more question. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Noah Hasselblad, and my question is, with Cyrus Hyven running for lieutenant governor, are there drawbacks for being blind as the lieutenant governor? If so, what are they?
I'm sorry. I think it's the microphone.
With Cyrus Hyven running for lieutenant governor, are there drawbacks for being blind as the lieutenant governor? If so, what are they?
So I think I've understood. He'll be the first blind person to, if he wins, to preside over a state legislature in the United States. So Washington will be, if he wins, doing something no other state has done, trying to figure out how he can do his job. And, they're going to have to make some changes in the chamber. They'll have to probably add some devices. But if you ever meet him, he's got all the apps. You don't realize until, you know, literally when he's working in the state senate, you don't know. I mean, it's not any kind of disability for him. He has all, and I don't think he's going to have to make any changes himself to be able to run the state senate. I'm not sure though if that answered your question. Is that what they're going to have to do in the chamber?
No, that's okay. That answered it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, I had a question. Hi, the students were wondering how you felt about the Electoral College.
Oh boy. What are you guys talking about? No one talks about the Electoral College. You know, I don't really have really thought about it. It's an interesting and odd part of this country where we all get a vote, but the person who gets the most votes for president may not win because of the way the Electoral College is. And I don't know if they'll ever change that. It's just one of those oddities of democracy that were created. For the most part, it works. Usually it coincides with that. But I don't know. I don't have an opinion on it. I just find it interesting that if it's a really close election and it hasn't been that way since the year 2000, the Electoral College matters. If it's a one-sided election, no one really cares.
Thank you. And one last question.
Hi, my name is Bradley Herrera, and I would like to ask you, which candidate do you think is the best choice for Senate?
For Senate? For U.S. Senate? For Senate?
Yeah, for Senate.
So the U.S. Senate, Patty Murray, who's talking about the U.S. Senate, the United States Senate, right? I want to make sure. Okay, so it's Patty Murray has been there, and Chris Vance is running against as a challenger. Again, I can't really pick one over the other. I can tell you they both have strengths. But Patty Murray's been there for 6 terms. She knows how things work. She's a very powerful and effective lawmaker in terms of knowing where and who can help her pass laws. But Chris Vance is a very smart guy. And he's worked in the Republican politics for a long time, so he does know people as well. Sometimes people like the experience, and he's counting on them wanting to have a change. So I don't really want to pick sides because I'm writing on that race. I don't want anyone to think I'm choosing sides. But as all races, they both have strengths. Patty Murray has a lot more experience, and she's favored. She has a lot more money to campaign, and she's probably favored to win by quite a bit.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We're sorry about our video connection.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate letting me talk to you today.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.